So today we're here with Pearce. Rivers, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you in person.
Yeah, finally.
All the way from Charleston, South Carolina.
That's right.
And he's in town. We're in Austin, and he's in town socially right now.
Yep. Little business, a little pleasure.
Little Christmas party coming up over the weekend.
You got it. You got it.
But I thought we'd take this opportunity to sit down and just chat about some things.
Love it.
I think from the first time that we were introduced that we hit it off pretty quickly.
Yep.
Partly because of our backgrounds, but also, because of our philosophies about business and how we think things are going to be done in the future. So tell me a little bit about your early career, because it's not everyone's early career.
No, I took a bit of a circuitous path, I guess. I started playing music. I started playing piano at 6. I started playing guitar around 10 years old. And by middle school, I was just completely obsessed. Started growing my hair out, the whole... You name it, I was in.
Now, what year was this? About what year was this?
I picked up my first guitar in 1988, probably.
Okay.
87.
Okay.
I was about 10, 11. And so at that time, it was like hair bands, and like Guns N' Roses hit the scene. I was like, I don't know what that is, but man, I want that. I thought it was the coolest thing. And so, I really got into playing guitar, and I played piano pretty well too. And I ended up going to a fine arts high school and studied jazz guitar under a guy named Steve Watson, who had retired at at that age. He was probably like 45, 50 at that age. And he had been Dolly Parton's touring guitar player for about a decade.
Wow. Okay.
He's from Greenville, South Carolina, which is my hometown.
Yeah.
And he was the lead jazz guitar instructor at the University of Southern California. And he was like hot shot. He played guitar on with a guy named Mike Post, and Mike Post wrote the theme music for like every 80s TV show. So Hill Street Blues, Saint
Right. I remember seeing his name.
Knight Rider, like all. If you see Mike Post,
it was there.
It was Steve on guitar. Okay,
Yeah.
and so he made a ton of money, I guess, and retired, moved to Greenville, and taught at the school, the Fine Arts Center, and so. I got out of there and went to music school for a year at the University of North Florida and was studying jazz guitar. But by the end of my freshman year, I was already like kind of in the senior band, and like I was like, what am I going to do for the next 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like burned out, I guess, on going to school for music. I moved up to Charleston, South Carolina, dropped out of school to figure my life out and become a musician, and realized I wasn't ready for that either. And I got back in school and ended up getting a philosophy degree. And
very useful.
Yes, really useful. So with the intent of writing music but I wanted to get a degree. I went to college in Charleston, and immediately upon graduation, a friend of mine called me and said his other guitar player was quitting. They needed somebody to fill out 3 months of a tour.
Okay.
Let's go. And so immediately went on the road basically, and I would say for the next 7 to 10 years was a full-time working musician and touring probably 60-70% of the year, sleeping on floors, living in vans.
Can you give us some names? Can you
No one you would have known,
okay.
But like late 90s, early 2000s in the Southeast. The band that was pretty popular was called Five Way Friday.
Okay.
So you can find us, we've still got stuff out, and we still, I'll be somewhere and somebody will hear my name. We were at a Clemson game a couple weeks ago, and my fiance was at a tailgate. I wasn't with her at the time. We had split up, and she mentioned my name, and the girl was like, Rivers, like musician Rivers, right? So if you went to school in the Southeast in the late 90s, early 2000s, you would know the band.
That can be scary when your name comes up like that.
It's good social media didn't really exist, So, but it was great. I learned a lot, and I got to the point, and, we made enough to make it a living.
Yeah, sure.
But I was hitting about 30 years old, and my now ex-wife, but, wife at the time was
We've all been there, Rivers.
She was like, I don't think it's really going to happen, and once that sits in, it's learning to stop and not feel like you gave up. you know, on the dream. And I was at that point.
Yeah.
And so, so I landed in, by the grace of God, I landed in early digital marketing. And in doing so, you know, at the time around 2004 or 5, you didn't need to have a resume for anything like that because it didn't really
it was so early.
Didn't really exist.
Yeah.
And some guys taught me how to do early Google AdWords and like old school, like black hat SEO.
About what year was that?
2005-ish.
Okay.
Probably about 20 years
20
ago.
years ago. Yeah.
And I fell in, and then I ended up at a digital marketing agency called 360i, and I was doing a lot of early e-commerce work. And I just learned how to do it. I learned how to do everything from, you know, at that time it was just display advertising or search marketing, basically. And I learned how to get you found online, you know, whether that was through paid search or spamming comments and doing the black hat side, you know. So I learned how to do SEO and PPC really well. And that, I guess that's what led me into real estate, if we're kind of going and you know, how I landed there.
When you first got into this digital marketing space, were there any lessons or things that you could carry over from your music career into the digital marketing space? Well, like, what translated?
I didn't think anything would translate. I was a really good guitar player and I was a really good bartender. Okay. What I realized though was I could talk to people and I could meet them where they were, you know, and you know, a lot of times when you're playing in a band after the show, you'll have all these people that want to talk to you, and then they come to talk to you and they won't say anything. So now you have to do the talking.
It's
right?
Crazy.
And
do they, you know, are they
like freeze up a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just kind of like that. I'm in a van. I'm not even in a bus. Right. And, but what I realized was that I could talk to people and they were looking for people that would go in and pitch what we did to prospective clients.
Okay.
And other folks at the agency were like terrified to get in front of people. I was like, I get in front of people all day, you know. That's what I was trained to do.
You didn't have stage fright.
I didn't have any stage fright. Yeah. I was trained I've been in front of thousands of people, played thousands of live shows.
Yeah.
As long as I know what I'm talking about. And I did eventually. And I got really good at pitching. And whether it was a new client or upselling or just getting a Q4, you know, pitch or something with the client. And I realized I could get up in front of people and talk and kind of soft sell, biz dev kind of style.
Was it at that point that you really realized that was a talent not a lot of people had?
It was a skill set. I realized it was an actual skill set. And, you know, since then I've done countless keynotes and these kinds of things, you know, but live audience stuff never bothered me. You know, I mean, I will say I still get nervous, and I think you should, you know, but and it's one of those things you think you're terrified. I'm like terrified something's going to go wrong or mess up, and then it's over, and it was great, you know.
You know, I think what it comes from, that innate confidence comes from competence.
Yeah.
Just
and
being
muscle memory.
So incredibly comfortable with the skills that you've developed that it's becomes second nature.
I'll tell you something else that translates over to anything is being able to improvise. Because there were countless times when you're ready to rock and everything's going, and then you break a string on the first song. Right.
100%.
Or the amp stops working. And I was lucky. I was a multi-instrumentalist, so I guess I'm playing piano tonight kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I broke in driver on the 7th tee. Yeah, and exactly. I'm like, how do I finish the round? Right.
Exactly. And so what I found is that I might be doing a pitch or a presentation. And, you know, back then it was like the projector just didn't work. So the hours you spent on the presentation, now you got no visuals. Right. And so,
thank you for doing this interview without notes, by the way. I still have mine.
That's all right. So I just think that those are the kind of things I never anticipated being, a skill set that that I even considered a skill set. And I would take it back to Steve when I was in high school. When we would take a test, he would call you up in front of the class. You'd have 20 people in front of you, all guitar players. He would put a piece of music in front of you you've never seen before, turn the metronome on and count to 4 and go. That was it, you know? So we just like, this is the training I'm giving you guys. Because if you're in the studio, and back then they're rolling tape, that's time is money, man.
Absolutely.
And tape is money. So
right now,
you mess up, there's a million guys waiting in the wings. So yeah,
it's really trial by fire.
Absolutely. But that's performance, you know? It
absolutely is. So tell me about specifically when you got back got into the digital marketing space. You were at a company called Boomtown.
Yes.
Give us a little Boomtown, because in the real estate space particularly, almost everybody's heard of it. So tell me what you were doing for them, because I think getting a little inside baseball on Boomtown would be interesting. Yeah,
it's cool. It's really a really wonderful success story. And I was living in Atlanta. We wanted to get out of Atlanta, and my daughter was probably 3 months old, and we wanted to make a change. We always wanted to get back to Charleston, and there's just never any opportunity out of food and bev, basically travel, tourism there. But I found this company looking for a search engine marketing manager called Boomtown.
Okay.
No clue what that is. Long story short, met the CEO. We had some mutual friends, and they convinced me to come over there. And so Boomtown at the time was called a leads management system. And this is 2009, 2010. And it was a front end website with a leads management. Now you would call it a CRM on the back end.
Okay. Got it.
And they had built this system that was really great for managing your contacts, and this is early days digital, especially for real estate. And it was right after IDX became a thing.
Okay.
And so they had built these beautiful front end websites that showcased property, and they would squeeze you, and they knew it could generate leads, but the problem was they couldn't get any traffic to the websites. So it was a classic, like, if you build it, they didn't come. Right? So they had about 50 clients at the time, and they were like, we got to figure out how to get traffic to these websites.
Okay.
And I knew how to get traffic to websites. So they brought me in, and there was 10 of us in a room about this size, grinding away on computers all day. We had a couple developers and some designers, and I was just manually building Google AdWords ads, manual keyword spreadsheets, and just generating traffic. So the clients would give us a budget. We would manage that budget and get them traffic and leads. And so that ended up working exceptionally well.
Can you give us some names of who was early on with Boomtown?
Let's see. Notable people then was probably the biggest client then, and who became a big name in the space, was Ben Kenny.
Okay. Ben, sure.
Everybody,
Keller Williams.
If you know Ben, and
absolutely
now he's got
Kenny
Place.
Team.
But yeah, we started getting really good at what we were doing, and there wasn't really much competition. It was like us, market leader, another company called Tiger Lead.
It was so new.
Yeah, it was pretty new, and IDX was a new thing. And we would go to I remember we went to Keller Williams family reunion. Is that the one they do here in Austin, I think?
Sometimes, yeah.
It's so we went, and we were literally like on a card table in the corner by the bathrooms. We think,
what year was this?
This was probably like 2010 or 11.
Okay.
And just standing there with our khaki pants on, and like just not, with like a card table and a monitor, and flash forward, 7 years, we're like premier booth, 40 by 40, spinning banner. But we took that and started scaling. And what we could do is we could generate leads for people for $3 to $5,
Wow.
And so what happened was real estate teams started becoming a thing at that time. At the same time, we got really involved with Keller Williams groups, and they were pioneering that model. And so it was, they needed a system that could generate a high volume of leads, and then we would then kind of work together at these masterminds around the country on how to actually run a team. And so you'd have the team leader, an ISA, or a lead concierge, we called it back then, and they used our platform as the platform and the tech to power these things, because we could generate so many leads, and then you could manage it on the system with an admin, transaction coordinator, ISA, et cetera.
Yeah,
so
you had the whole, basically developed the entire system,
just a full blueprint,
soup to nuts.
Yep, exactly. And so we took that, company from 10 of us in 2010 over the next, I was there almost 10 years. When I left, we had about 350 employees. I think we had 3,000 clients, 50,000 active users on the platform, across real estate and mortgage as well. But in the process, I got to be involved with all of the top teams in the country, all the top coaching organizations, every brand, all the independents. And so just by osmosis of being in the industry, being around all of that.
You were in a really unique position to sort of see the evolution of the industry, not necessarily kind of from the outside.
Mm-hmm. And so the other piece of it is that we got to be on the forefront of every, evolution of search marketing. Then social media became a thing, and then paid social media became a thing, right? Then remarketing and retargeting and mobile advertising is like every step of the way we were right there. And it got to the point, because I left Atlanta and I was working with big brands at the time, like Office Depot, Apple, AARP, like major brands. And we had like Google embedded in our office. And I came to Boomtown and I was spending like $5,000 a month collectively. Google ain't going to take your call for that, right?
No, not anymore.
And not at that time. And then we got to the point where they started calling us. They're like, you guys are spending a ton of money with us, right? And so they started spinning up small business oriented kind of channel partnerships.
And they is Google,
and then eventually Facebook as well. And so we were also getting flown out to Mountain View and to, Facebook headquarters, and like, it was cool shit, man. Like, it was fun and learned a lot.
So what we're seeing today, in terms of, how the ads are created and basically how Facebook has built their paid advertising model, you were on the forefront.
Yeah. Oh, we were building custom audiences manually. We were building keyword sheets manually, all that. These days you kind of press a button, right? But at one time I probably had 10 full-time just paid media people on the team at Boomtown, just manually building ads every day, optimizing bids manually.
Wow.
We started putting implementation in place to run the advertising. And every system we'd put in place, we'd break it, because if you think about it, most of these systems are built for a couple of big brands spending a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
We had 1,000 advertisers spending $1,500 a month.
Kind of these micro businesses.
Micro budgets.
Right.
And that doesn't work in any of the systems. So it got to the point where we just had to build our own ad tech too. And so we went from this real estate platform to having kind of IP around doing online advertising, and we got to build a lot of that. It was cool. And I think what you found, kind of putting a bow on the Boomtown story, is if you look out into the industry now, we kind of call it like the PayPal mafia, like the Boomtown mafia. Our people are sprinkled all over prop tech.
What kind of, it sounds like you were doing was creating this mass customization, which is the holy grail of marketing, where you can really highly target for highly specific clients.
Yep, absolutely. It was great, man. It was great. That era is over. You can't generate that volume of leads for that kind of cost anymore.
No.
But it was fun. It was good, and it worked.
So I have in my notes here, I need to ask you about how lead obsession was created.
Yeah, this is kind of like my atonement period of life, I guess. What happened was we were able to generate literally millions of buyer leads for a while.
Wow.
And you had teams come along that built their entire business on that. And in doing so, they didn't have any background in like actual database marketing, real sphere-based marketing. It was just, where's the next lead? Where's the next lead? Where's the next lead? And we could deliver that. So it's like a feeder pellet, right? But it creates like what I call it now, a hot lead addiction, hot lead syndrome, right? And that was fine for a while, but when you get the amount of competitors in the spaces, and when Zillow, the portals have become what they are today,
right?
You just can't compete for it anymore. But what happened is you have, probably hundreds of thousands of agents that came up in a post 2008, 9, 10 era they don't know anything else, but I get leads online. I work those leads. I move on to the next one. But the problem is you create a hamster wheel effect, or a rat race, I call it, where there's no, they may have 1,000 contacts in their database, but they're only looking for the next lead. And so
yeah, it was like rinse and repeat.
It's rinse and repeat, and it works.
It does. It does.
Works.
But it's a hamster wheel.
It's a hamster wheel, and you don't build anything sustainable, because if cost per click goes up, or conversion rates change and your cost per leads go up, the margins start to get messed with, right? It takes one little change, or
macro environment changes,
or like when Facebook took away our ability to target by occupation or income, those kinds of things.
Or they change the rules on you.
They change the rules on you, or Google does an algorithm update, and all of a sudden your organic stuff doesn't work anymore.
Now you're reinventing your business model.
Yeah, or your business model just falls apart. And we're seeing it even now. Like, I mean, if you look at what's happening in the portal space, and, when Zillow says, well, we're going to go to a flex model, and like all of a sudden the $10 leads, $50 leads, even getting her 30% referral on the back end, like that doesn't work, right? So I think now what happens, what we're trying to do, at least for my mission now, is like, you have what you need probably already, and quit looking out here for everything. We're still going to do digital marketing. You're still going to do advertising marketing, but we've already got what we need. It's more relationship based. And the irony of it all is that you ask any realtor, what are they going to say? Like, oh, I do all my business from relationships. It's my network. It's my sphere. It's like, but you don't actually manage your CRM or make your calls. You're always looking for the next hot lead, right? So it's a bit of a disconnect there.
Well, it seems like there's only been two ways to do things. Is that you've either had this hamster wheel model, or you've had this unsystematized,
right,
I'm running on the power of my personality.
Right.
And now it seems that you've got to have a hybrid. You've got to have both.
Yeah, I think so, 100%.
So, so is the solution database scale marketing versus lead scale marketing?
I think it's both.
Okay.
If you have the budgets to generate leads, but I think it should always start with your contact database, your sphere, your network. When I say database, I mean your relationships, right? And that could be people you actually know, all the way out to people that you've had some contact with. But I think you shouldn't necessarily be in the lead gen game, because it's expensive and it takes a different system to work those leads.
Paid leads is a tough game.
It's a tough game, and it takes you need other things than a relationship system, in my opinion. You shouldn't be doing it unless you're growing your business, but you should be able to have the infrastructure and budget to handle that. But I also think if you've got a big enough database, you should mine that and work that and use that for lead gen. I think if it's kind of comes down to like more of an abundance mindset. Like, if you've got this database to use, which a lot of the larger, even smaller teams, you ask them, how many contacts do you have in your database? 2,000, 3,000, maybe 10,000. There's plenty of business opportunities there.
And the gold, because I've done a lot of database marketing. The gold is in the consistency, and the integrity of the data.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's got to be good. It's got to be accurate, and it's got to be clean. It's got to be clean, and it's got to be robust.
Yep.
Meaning we just can't know people's names and addresses.
It needs to be actionable, and in order to be actionable, it has to be clean, it has to be deduped, it has to be structured. And I think another piece that is often, it's still bewildering to me, that let's not forget where like 90% of people are. They're in their home. They're homeowners. They're living in a home. The other 10% of the time, they're in some part of a buying or sales cycle, right? But that's part of a 7 to 10 year cycle, right?
Typically, yeah.
So Tom Ferry says, like, quit marketing to your clients like they're leads. They're not leads. They're homeowners. And so what does that look like? That's a different value. That's a different value you're trying to offer them.
So how do you keep that relationship while they're not in active buying or selling, active client status?
Yes. Don't keep hitting me up with like, are you ready to buy or sell marketing? I'm not.
Because 90% of the time you're not.
I'm not. But I am living in my home and I want to follow the market.
Right.
I want to know what my equity looks like. I want to know what my options are if I have a baby, if I need to add on, if I need to draw on that equity.
I may need a painter.
I may need a painter, a plumber, a termite guy, a roofer. You
can be the source of all things related to your home.
You absolutely should. And when you can get an agent to see that, then because, think about it, like they are so transactional focused that to market to homeowners you can't see any transaction coming from that. And so it doesn't feel like you're making any opportunities, creating any opportunities there. So they go back to the hamster wheel.
And that's where the type of marketing that keeps you visible, that makes you the authority on all things homes, is important.
I think it's critical.
And what you don't want to see is you don't want to see one of your friends that's in your database end up working with somebody that was a Zillow lead.
You got it.
You got off of there.
You already paid for them, and now somebody else has got it.
100%. You already have the investment in place.
Absolutely. So it's like, do you think that just because they're not responding to you necessarily, that they're just going to go off into the ether and decide not to list or buy? Like, no, they're going to go just work with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got to stay in front of them. You've got to continue to be the authority. Okay.
And yeah, some twists and turns along the way. And Jeff and I are real passionate about data and data infrastructure, really, really sexy stuff. But we could see the writing on the wall with AI and with like the NAR settlement, and some things are changing. And
well,
how is brokerage going to operate in a post NAR settlement, post AI kind of this new world?
Yeah.
And Jeff and I were already kind of working on data and technology models that we thought would work.
And this was a couple of years ago?
This was about a year and a half ago, yeah.
Okay. So it was really new.
Fairly new, but things are moving pretty fast these days.
Absolutely, they're moving quickly.
And so we had built all these pro formas around like what a brokerage could be, especially on buyer side, post-NAR settlement.
Okay.
Data infrastructure, master data infrastructure, and how AI needs to operate within a brokerage, and the data infrastructure needed to do that. And we were pitching it to a lot of brokerages that were not interested.
Do you think even people understand the value of data at this point?
Some people do. I think it's still very not understood in the brokerage world, And so when we kind of, Jeff and I put out a white paper on master data management.
I read that white paper, by the way. Maybe there was 3 of us that read it.
I know. It was really, it broke the internet.
37 pages
and so we were already working with Peter and Aaron, and Aaron read it, and she was like, this. Yeah. We were like, really?
Okay, so
you're interested
Aaron read
in
it,
that?
so that's 4.
Yeah. Aaron and Peter read it, so maybe 4 or 5. And we said, well, if that's interesting to you guys, and we went out to Seattle. John, you were there. We went out to Seattle.
John's off screen, by the way.
And we were like, look, hey, if you guys really want to do this, this is what we're proposing. This is how the infrastructure needs to work behind the scenes. And we kind of pitched that to him. And Peter, being a longtime Microsoft guy and data guy, he got it immediately. He was like, yes, absolutely. Let's go. And so from then, it was like everything we brought to the table, Peter and Aaron were like, yes, what else? Let's do, and from a consulting perspective, nobody ever says that,
no,
right?
No.
They hire you and then they fight you the whole way. And so
it must have been a dream for you.
It was wonderful.
And Jeff was probably smiling, even though
we were real
says
happy.
Very little.
He said he's a man of few words. Yeah. And then Aaron was like, one day was like, so would you guys be interested in like folding in like full time with us and joining the brokerage, and what would that look like? And I was like, never. I've been in the space a long time. I'm never going to go to that side.
Go to the dark side.
No. Right. But it just made so much sense because it wasn't like just starting a brokerage. It's like data company, technology company, brokerage, like what could a brokerage be now? And that's what Jeff and I have been talking about. And we just weren't interested in starting the brokerage
Master
side
data
of it.
management is applicable to
Everything.
tons of businesses.
Any business.
Yeah.
Every business.
Yeah.
And what we were getting in the brokerage world and the teams world that we were talking to people kind of pitching this was crickets. It was like, we're not. We got a whole bunch of other things to worry about. And that's okay, you know, but Peter and Aaron did not.
Well, listen, master data management is not a shiny object. It's
actually not new either.
It's not sexy. But the act of it is the outcomes in the actionable insight that you get from doing it can be world changing.
That's where the sexy stuff comes from.
100%.
You know, so with that in place, because AI can't do what you want it to do without that kind of structure underneath it. If you want proprietary AI, it's actually proprietary data. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I mean, that's the kind of journey. And from there, it was like, all right, well, you know, let's build this thing. And, you know, we're still fairly early days, but it's being built and the vision's there. And I think we've got a lot of, I think we're going to do some really great things because of that core infrastructure and because of the team that's being put in place around it.
What are the problems that you see that agents have that can be solved with the way that you're approaching things?
I think at the core, what I'm passionate about is it allows them to actually own their database. And when I say database, again, it's their relationships, their network, that digital representation of that.
Own in a legal perspective, own in an operational perspective.
Absolutely. Because like we said earlier, if I put that data into someone else's CRM, you know, I don't know what I'm going to be able to get back out of there. Right. So imagine if you had a storage unit and you put all your stuff in the storage unit and you paid your monthly rent. And then one day you decided you didn't want to rent that storage unit anymore. And you ended your contract and they gave you 3/4 of what was in there.
Wow.
You know, like, think about it from that perspective, that a lot of things get locked into these platforms. And so you have this agents have been kind of trained and for good reason, because brokerages change their technology all the time. Companies get sold, they get acquired, and you may not want to be affiliated with that parent company. And so you've built your business on a CRM, for example, that now is owned by a company you don't want to be a part of or is now being sunset.
We won't say Follow Up Boss or Zillow.
These things happen.
We won't say those.
And that's okay. Like businesses change and all, but what happens, especially on the brokerage side, is that agents are hesitant to put their information, their contacts, which are their business, into a brokerage solution because brokerages have a history of changing technology. You know, and so what you have is this cycle where an agent can't get the full value of the brokerage tech stack, which may or may not be all that good, but it may be great. Who knows? That because of their reluctance to put their data into it, they then are forced to manage their own database somewhere else. And that's usually across spreadsheets, phone contacts, a couple of CRMs maybe that they can't even log into anymore. And they kind of are in this like fragmented world where their business is this fragmented thing that's on rented software that they don't have any ownership and then imagine saying, well, how much is that worth? How much is your database worth? You can't put a value on that because there's no way to do it.
Well, it's your business.
It's your business.
It's the whole business.
And so then the brokerages are like, well, agents don't use my technology. So then they just get cheaper technology, right? And so it's kind of like round and round we go.
Yeah.
And it's the age old thing of brokers saying, well, agents won't use it, so I'm not going to pay for it, but I got to have something.
There's no adoption.
There's no adoption. So I think what we can offer, what we're trying to say is imagine a world where you can own your database and plug it into our tech stack, and that gives you value back.
It's almost a situation where you don't know what you don't know, in that we know or we can understand the value of data going forward. It's really your database is your wealth.
It is your retirement fund.
It is your retirement fund. And I think that'll come to fruition, and at least people will have that realization.
Yeah.
here very quickly.
I hope so. I'm in kind of mindset shifting mode, right? We've got to get agents to wake up. And I hope that some of the current things going on in the world of real estate and portals and privacy agreements and things that
there's this forced shift that's happening.
Yes.
Like as we speak.
Yes.
Because of the things you've mentioned, the AI, the NAR agreements,
yes,
the mergers and acquisition in the space, and
yes,
these huge culture shifts.
Yep.
What is that going to mean? Talk about how marketing has changed, because you've really been on the forefront of it for the last 10 or 15 years. We've gone from postcards to CRMs to, the next things.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going on a high level?
Yeah, I think postcards and CRMs and bus benches and all those things, like, they're still in play. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I'm an old school digital guy, don't get me wrong, but they all work. Like, advertising across the board works. Billboards, radio, TV, over the top, whatever you want to call it, it all works. You should track it all, because you can. You should be tracking that and bringing that into your data.
Lead source origination.
Absolutely. You can't, you don't know what's working if you don't track it. But I think this might be getting a little bit in the weeds, but people need to start looking at CRM, ad platforms, email marketing platforms, text messaging. They need to start looking at these as more of an execution layer, as opposed to where they're putting their data. And so if you think about the old way was, I put my data in, it does something, and hopefully I get value from that.
Okay.
Now it's, my data should live on my own private data warehouse.
Okay.
And I choose to share that through an API with an execution layer, like a CRM, an email platform, an ad platform, a social media platform. And I open up the doors. I let my data into that system. It does what it's promising me it's going to do. And I get data back out for my data warehouse, right? So it's executing on what the promised outcome of that.
And that master data warehouse is helping those external platforms be better.
Do its job. You told me you're going to do this thing. I'm paying you to do that. I'm opening the door, putting my data, sharing it with you. But if you don't hold up your end of the bargain, guess what? I'm going to unplug.
It's like you own your learning.
Absolutely. And you're giving them value too, for sure. But they should enrich your data and do something with it to create an outcome.
Okay.
Right. And so if you think about AI, you've got a prompt box now.
Right.
And underneath that are all these things that are executing on behalf of what you want it to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the difference, is we've got to start thinking of all these SaaS products out there. They're just execution layers. The UI is almost going away. I don't need to log into something and click all these buttons and all. It's like, I need the APIs to execute on what it says it's going to do.
Gotcha. Okay. So that is, I am glad we have people like you on our side. Because what's great is that agents can rely on this type of insight to then go and make their day-to-day that much easier.
I hope so. And I personally still have to get better at eloquently talking about these things, because they're newer kinds of concepts.
Well, and I'm sure, because that's part of the intellectual creative process, that you're still refining.
Absolutely.
And part of marketing, because you are a marketer, is to figure out how to make complex problems in situations seem simpler.
Yeah, I guess to answer your question about how on the marketing side, pure marketing side, is agents are now, and people in general, are being trained by the world to go to a prompt box and either talk or type and get an answer or a thing.
Okay. Right.
So an agent should be able to go, I want to see 10 contacts from my database in this area that might be XYZ, willing to move, whatever that thing is. I want to show them properties that are valued at 10% under the average market price with a pool. And so go find them. Okay. Found them. I want to send them an email about these properties with a link to it to my website, draft that email. It's drafted. Okay, review, send. Okay, I also want it to create a custom audience from my database, push that into Facebook, put an ad in front of them.
And what allows that to happen?
That
is
master data
management.
APIs, and so then that's
connectivity
the execution layer. Right. The AI is saying, what are the best tools in your tech stack to execute on what you want, as opposed to old days. Okay, I got to go comb through my database, find these people, export that, put it over here, write this email, send that email, make sure the link works. Like, do you see where we're going with this?
And the magic and the success of the agent relied on the discipline to do all those things.
Oh, yeah.
And not necessarily focus on the client relationship, which is what we should all be focused on at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So we talked, and we've already talked about this, but what's coming next besides this data ownership? So explain unified intelligence. You had that down here, and I'm like, okay, I need to hear a little bit about, because that seems a little bit esoteric.
It is, and it isn't so much as if you have. Remember, we were talking about data or contacts being fragmented across systems. Yes. Well, if I have a contact that's the same person that's in a CRM, an email platform, a social media platform, a text-based platform, those kinds of SaaS products, if you will, each one of them is going to maybe call them a different thing. Maybe I have a different naming structure. The way that the data is input into those systems and stored in the database. When you bring those into one database, one data warehouse, you have to normalize it and assign a unique ID to it, right? It's really just that kind of at its basic level is to say your unified data infrastructure is that person, we see them in 30 different places, but this is them in your data warehouse. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the number you've assigned to them. And so when we're talking about it and we want to do something with it, you're referencing that one person as opposed to this 10 fragmented people across the same person fragmented across all your tools.
And it's got everything that the system has learned about that person now aggregated in one single place.
Right. So I'm bringing the email conversations in, the text messages in, the web activity in, social media history in, the phone call scripts, the notes I've taken somewhere, and I'm building a unified.
And the system's learning things from that.
Right.
That maybe you would miss.
Because it's not unified.
Correct.
Right. So we're building the way we're looking at it at Energy is let's unify all that data in your warehouse. This is a vision. This is what we're building towards. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's not uncommon in travel and hotel or retail. It's just really uncommon in real estate because of the nature of the business. Yeah.
So tell me what excites you the most about what you're working on now? Is it that?
It's bigger than that. We have an opportunity collectively as a group at Energy to do something that Brokerage, we haven't done it before.
Nobody's done it.
Nobody's done it.
No matter how big, no matter how small,
and it
just hadn't been done.
That's not because it's like nobody thought of it. You couldn't. And so it was like, I was talking with somebody recently about like, I'm not going to knock legacy walled garden models of the tech that the world that I grew up in this space, because at that time it was cutting edge.
Yeah.
That was it, man. We didn't have APIs. We didn't that's how it worked. And so you can't necessarily knock legacy brokerage models or even kind of the 1.0 virtual models and the things like they have all been cutting edge at the time, and we need to be conscious of that as well. But that's the real opportunity.
It's like the tech is changing, and the tech is forcing the brokerage models to change.
Yes, because it's changing consumers and people externally, right? And so I think it's that greenfield opportunity. We're not bringing some legacy model that we're trying to shoehorn into this new world. It's like, we don't have tech debt.
Like a round peg in a square hole.
We don't have tech debt. We don't have a legacy brokerage model debt, like none of that. It's like, let's just build it in now moving forward and constantly having to iterate and keep up with that. But
it's like every now and then you got to tear it completely down and build it back. And,
right.
and
but you can't do that
are.
if you're, a 50,000 agent public brokerage or something. You can't tear it down and start over.
Well, you're not that nimble.
You're not nimble.
No matter what you say, you cannot be that nimble.
You can't move the barge. You can't move the Titanic.
You can't turn the battleship,
right?
As they say.
Now they have other things that they can do that we can't necessarily. But I've lived in startup world for on and off for 20 years almost, and that's really fun and exciting. And roll your sleeves up and get scrappy and get it done. So, yeah, there's a million other like marketing and data things that I'm excited about. But that's the big piece. It's like, what can we do here that you couldn't have done even a year ago?
What's interesting for me is that you started with this concept of embracing the newest concept in AI and tech, which is master data management. And you're working backwards to design a brokerage around that.
Right.
And that's the piece that you're sort of reverse engineering, using cutting edge data and matching it with old school culture, collaboration, and community.
It's evolution. Peter was always like, we're not trying to disrupt anything or be some revolutionary thing. We're evolving. And let's, we're obviously talking about marketing and data and tech, but there is the brokerage component that Peter and Aaron are bringing to the table, that her vision for what a boutique culture at a virtual scale with that kind of national power behind it.
How you do it.
That is how you got to have it all. It's like three pieces of the Venn diagram, right? I think, would that be
three circles?
Three circles of the thing, right? It's the systems, the technology, the data that enable the vision for what the culture could be and how you do those kinds of things.
Gotcha. So as we move forward, let's fast forward a year, for example. What do you see the most successful agents doing?
Put me on the spot there. I think I would like to see them have the mindset shift to say, the light bulb moment to say, okay, I get it. My database, my network of relationships, I understand how powerful that is and what that actually means. And I need to actually take ownership of that. It's an asset. It is my retirement. It is my business. And in a 1099 world, when you move around brokerages, don't you think you should own that? Really
take it
own
with
it.
you.
You should be able to take it with you when you go.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And so I think that would be a big win. And in doing that, it changes the way you look at the decisions you make around who you partner with, the technology that you use to say to your broker, do you have a data sharing agreement? Do you use technology that has bidirectional APIs? What happens with my data when I leave, right? Like, people aren't typically asking those things.
We don't even know to ask the question. We don't have the right questions to ask.
Exactly. So I think the win for me was if we can start to educate people enough to start asking those questions, then they're making much more informed decisions about their business. It's a 1099 business.
So what you're really talking about is integrating tech, not just stacking it.
No. Stacking makes you think linear. We don't live in a linear world. And I always say this to real estate agents. I was like, you're always talking about your sphere of clients, your sphere of customers. Well, what is a sphere? It's it's three-dimensional, right?
It's a ball.
Start thinking three-dimensionally. It's not like this linear thing. It's not a timeline per se. It's people moving in and out of states of activity of buying and selling and living in their home. So it's like that kind of mindset combined with
this whole ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem. It's like gravity, right? It's like, this is your thing and it's spinning and it's pulling people in, right?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different ways to look at it, but I think that would be a real win, in my opinion, if large pieces of the industry started to wake up to that reality.
I think what this tech is ironically going to do is, as you've described it, is to make the most successful agents relationship athletes.
Yeah, sure. Great way to put it.
That term to me is we need to use this tech to build these types of relationship athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, like, let's not we were talking about agents, right? But let's not forget that it's all about helping consumers buy, sell, and grow wealth, build equity, whatever, through real estate, right? That as tech gets more and more and rapidly gets better, there are parts of the agent value proposition that will get eroded away. And that means that the agent needs to be more of an advisor, more of a guide. You know, it's the same way that 30 years ago, you went into the office, you sat down, you looked at a book of property. It's like the property search portion of your value prop.
Remember the printouts
yes,
with,
exactly.
with the listings?
By the time it got printed, it was already out of date, right?
Carrying the book around, right?
So,
and a client would ask me, "Can I see that book?" I'm like, "Oh no, you cannot see the book.
You can come sit down in my office.
We'll go through the book, but you cannot see my book."
And
that was the MLS.
Absolutely. And so that portals changed that. IDX changed that. They took that away from the agent value
search
proposition.
Away, right?
And look at transaction management and contracts and stuff. That's all on your phone now, right? You don't need to so what parts are going to continually get eroded through there, right? Offer and negotiation. You're telling me that you can negotiate better than this thing that has 1,000 data points in real time. You're going to need to be able to interpret data outputs from AI. So until you start switching into an advisor, which is a long-term client relationship, if you're still pinning your hopes on something that is probably going to get chipped away at by data, technology, AI, I think you're slowly eroding your value proposition.
Okay, so lastly, you and I have been in this business decades now, each. And we both have a lot of gray hair and some experience.
Yeah.
What would you say? Let's hit the younger folks. If they were going to start right now, fresh, what should they do?
First and foremost, go into it with the mindset of I'm building long-term relationships. And those relationships create a database of value. And that value becomes my long-term business and ultimately a retirement account, if you will. The same way you would think about building a portfolio of stocks or a wealth portfolio. And that clients are clients and they're not past clients unless you make them a past client.
That's nice.
And, use the tool set available to you today, but be nimble enough to know that it's going to change, but the core of it is that mindset. The rest of it's pretty easy. It's a blueprint, a system, just listen to people that have been there, done that, but kind of looking through things through the lens that we've been discussing here that's still evolving. But what a great opportunity to get involved. But I'd say be careful because we talked about the people that were stuck in the lead gen rat race that maybe got into real estate, say in 2012, 2013, the height of kind of big teams growing. They're having trouble evolving out of that the same way that people from the old school were having trouble evolving into the teams model and operationalize real estate.
Yeah.
We don't know where it's going next, but be ready and be nimble. And if you own your relationships, you own your database, you should be fine no matter what. We'll see.
Rivers, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure picking your brain for a while. It seems very exciting what you're working on, and thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
All
this
right.
has been wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.